we look at those. I don't put together like some of them.
Yeah, we're not, voting on anything.
No, but I think that that's.
Okay, we're all set.
Really good.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 15th meeting of the Village of New Paltz Planning Board. Tonight we have some administrative business to attend to, followed by one public hearing and 3 application reviews. Begin with, did everyone get a chance to take a look at the July 1st meeting minutes?
Yes.
Were there any changes, comments? In that case, could I get a motion to approve the July 1st meeting minutes?
So.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, do we have any updates from our village board and the county planning board liaison tonight? Okay, seems like no updates from there. Are there any updates from the environmental policy board?
Desperately in need of members, didn't reach quorum again, there wasn't a meeting, but, some people from, Christ the King Church, donated sofa hoses to the edible garden, so that was very nice of them.
Thank you. Next, do we have updates from our director of planning and zoning?
Yeah, a couple quick things. You'll see in your packets tonight, there's 2 printouts. And also in the agenda, there's some links. What these are is, back when the village board hired me, a little over a year ago, one of the things they asked me to do was take a look at our code and make some recommendations. It's been an ongoing process. I've watched this board, I've looked at the code really carefully. At their last village board meeting, I made these recommendations to them. At this point, this is only informational for you because what we left it at with the village board is they're gonna take a month and review, and I'm going back to their August meeting. There's a few items that I need feedback from them before we settle in on anything. But I wanted, Tim asked and the board asked that I just get you guys the beginnings of this. So it's informational only, it's not the official referral. Take a look, if you got questions, feel free to call me, email me. It's so you guys can start to formulate thoughts because eventually you will be referred this for an official comment and review. So what I did print out for you is the overview is a very, 5-mile view synopsis of changes. And then a lot of what happened is moving things around. I found the current code, I'm sure you've experienced it, is out of sequence, it's kind of wonky, it's kind of hard to find things. So this chart shows you kind of where things used to be, where they were moved to, what changed. And then the links are available through the agenda if you want to dig deeper into it. There's an actual red line version of the code. And so, again, for informational purposes, it's one.
Okay, thank you.
And I did not get a chance to look at the village, the town for the town planning board's agenda, so I'm not sure about any minutes for them.
Okay. Do you have any update on the planning board email, or did you want to discuss that about?
Yeah, so I'm working with Ariana to come up with a solution. We think we have one. Do not have it set up yet. In the interim, if anybody emails planning board, obviously it's getting forwarded to your guys' personal emails. We're gonna resolve so that doesn't happen. And that communications to the board members, being that you're all volunteers, will come through our office. But we have ideas of how to fix it, but it's not fixed yet.
Great.
But it should be fixed very soon. I'll leave it at that. So, and apologies that you were kind of sort of inundated with a lot of emails.
It would be great if we had a different address we could use.
Yeah, some of the problem is the cost. We explored giving you, all of you, individual Village of New Paltz email addresses, and the cost for that was over $1,000 a year. So we aren't gonna do that, but we have some other ideas about it, so.
Great, thank you. Were there any other updates from the board? I noticed there was some like affordable housing committee meeting, emergency meeting or something.
Yeah, the Affordable Housing Board was made aware that there's a vacancy at Zero Place for an affordable unit. And, the owners have chosen to leave it vacant. They don't want to fill it. So we did have a meeting this afternoon with the Affordable Housing Board to hash it out. We invited the owner to come. We did not. You know, it's a shame. It's probably, you know, whatever. And we, as a board, we really don't have too much authority to do too much about it. So the Affordable Housing Board will be appealing to the Board of Trustees and see if they can help us out anyway.
Okay.
But yes, there is an affordable housing vacancy sitting there. And as I've said many times, there's at least 100 families looking for an apartment.
Thank you. Moving on, I'd like to have our public comment. Is anyone here tonight to make a general public comment? Fine.
Yeah, no one's cited.
Okay. Is there anyone online that would like to make a public comment? Assuming no. In that case, we can move on to our public hearing. I'd like to get a motion to open the public hearing for PB 25-12.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mike, who was signed up tonight for our,
This is 52 Main Street, correct? There is no one signed up?
okay. And is there anyone online that would like to make a public comment on PB 25-12?
We have nobody online.
Okay, nobody online. In my case, could I get a motion to close the public hearing for PB 25-12?
So.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, our second public hearing, sorry, do I need a motion to open it if it was just adjourned last time?
You still should do a motion to open it for tonight. Did you want to do the review of that first one, the first application, or do you want to do the public hearing first? I wasn't.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's up to you.
Different,
It's certainly your call.
Yeah, I'd rather just do the two public hearings
That's fine.
first. So could I have a motion to open the public hearing for PB 25 or 24-15?
So.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
We do have a number of people signed up. The first speaker is Christine Marmo, and if anybody has written comments that they want to leave with me, that is extremely helpful.
Hi, Christine Marlowe. I live at 127 Huguenot Street and I own 8 Prospect Street, which is a 2-family dwelling. I have a request. The request to the board, and I've spoken to you before, is if you could, in discussing this project, please speak about how this project affects community character on Prospect Street, because I haven't really heard too much about it, and I would really like to hear your views on how this project affects Prospect Street. Thank you.
The next person is Allison Nash, and it's gonna be read by Jennifer Cook.
Hi.
So from Allison. Over the past 2 years, I've attended every planning board meeting in which 7 Prospect Street was on the agenda and commented both during the public comments part of the meeting and at public hearings. Unfortunately, I'm away for the July 15th public hearing, so one of my neighbors will read my statement. Legal memorandum NYSLU 05 attempts to define family in ways municipal zoning codes can be inclusive, yet still maintain single and 2 family neighborhoods. The definitions have been presented at numerous planning board meetings, and I want to reiterate that none of the definitions include rentals by the room. Similarly, our village code explicitly states that a rooming house, boarding house, or similar structure is not a single or 2 family dwelling. Definitions code 212-5. Dwelling, any building or portion thereof designed or used primarily as a residence or sleeping place of 1 or more persons. A dwelling is not a mobile home, a hotel, a motel, a hospital, a nursing home, a dormitory, a fraternity or sorority house, or rooming house, a boarding house, or similar structure under the terms of this chapter. Sub definition 1, dwelling, single family. A detached building designed for or occupied by 1 family and containing not more than 1 dwelling unit. Sub definition 2, 2 family dwelling. A detached or semi-detached building where not more than 2 individual family or dwelling units are entirely separated by vertical walls or horizontal floors that are unpierced except for access to the outside or to a common cellar. Yet, there are several rentals by the room sprinkled in R1 and R2 zone neighborhoods throughout the village. Mr. Serda owns several properties on Prospect Street. His buildings south of John include at least 18 individual room rentals, such that there are more people renting by the room than people renting or owning the other houses. Given Mr. Serda's history of non-compliance with regulations, the number of his rentals by the room already on Prospect, and the current site plan to expand a property that already has 6 individual room rentals, I urge the planning board to deny this expansion until such time that the use of 7 Prospect is clearly compliant with the definition of a 2-family dwelling under Article 212-5. Thank you.
Terry, do you mind while Jennifer's here, you were want to make comments as well?
My own comments, yeah.
Yeah, do you mind, Terry, if I just have her go while she's still here?
It's a little boring for them to look at me twice, but
That's okay.
okay,
It's saves me going back and coming back in 30 seconds, so.
I'll get my steps. Okay. All right, so this is me speaking for me. Hello, my name is Jennifer Ed Cook. I co-submitted the Hudson Valley One article and the letter to the editor. I stand firmly with my neighbors in opposing 7 Prospect. As you vote today, I ask you to imagine your homes, your families, your block. Would you want 7 Prospect built next door to you? What would you do if 7 Prospect was your neighbor? In New York State, the character of the neighborhood is a key consideration in planning decisions. It is influenced in part by the buildings that exist in a community. By state law, the board can and should include the potential impact on a neighborhood's character. So what is Prospect Street's current character? It is what New Paltz can be. It is lemonade stands and amazing Halloweens and potlucks. It's kids, single folks, and older folks. It's economically diverse. There are single family homes, apartments, townhouses, rental units. It is homeowners and renters. We are good neighbors who are actively engaged in the village. And the library board, school committees, we march in pride, etc., etc. We are good neighbors who share lawnmowers and shovel snow for the older folks. Prospect Street is what New Paltz can be, good neighbors. So what character will 7 Prospect be? The increased occupancy of 7 Prospect will add more cars needing more parking, more noise, more waste and trash, nor flooding to the downstream neighbors. Most likely, 7 Prospect does not add lemonade stands or Halloween thrills, no trampolines or neighbors shoveling snow. To date, 7 Prospect has not been a good neighbor. 7 Prospect has ignored stop work orders and violated codes. This is not being a good neighbor. Thus, as per state law, the board must include that the character of Prospect Street will be diminished by 7 Prospect. Of course, analyzing the character of a neighborhood is a slippery slope that is not immune to systemic classism or racism. I do my very best to confront these isms in my own understanding and hopes for Prospect Street. My family began looking for a house to buy or rent in the fall of 2023. We saw 20 to 30 places. In New Paltz, not one was in the village. Many were out of our price range. About to give up, my partner saw a sweet little single family house on Prospect Street for sale. We loved it immediately and we loved the block. We loved the geese on the stoops and the townhouses. We loved the single family homes and the apartments. We wanted to live in a community that was committed to affordable housing in word and deed. I was told recently that New Paltz is a leader in the county on affordable housing and housing in general. I believe it. Hard work, well done. Though I'm dismayed to hear the recent update about the vacant unit. With 100 families waiting, it has to be occupied. As a new resident, however, who searched desperately for a single family house in the village, I was deeply dismayed to discover that the new construction at 7 Prospect had gutted a beautiful single family home to make 9 to 10 single rooms. This makes no sense. Why gut a home when homes are in such short supply? A friend of mine in town recently lost her entire home to a fire. She is searching for a rental for her family and her dogs. She can't find anything and she has lived here for 30 plus years. New Paltz needs more regulated, well-maintained, affordable housing for all kinds of people in all kinds of situations. 7 Prospect is not a solution to that problem. 7 Prospect adds to the destruction of homes available to families. 7 Prospect negatively impacts the character of Prospect Street. So again, if you live next door to 7 Prospect, how would you vote today? Please vote as if this were your street. I thank you for your volunteer service on this committee.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Sarah Duggan.
So revised site plan, was turned in towards the end of June. I've had a chance to look at it. There are numerous errors in the drawing. Since the code specifically states that the drawings that are turned in must be complete and in the proper form, which means accurate, artful. We're still dealing with an incomplete application which is not qualified as having been submitted. It's important to hold the public hearing open until such time as the applicant actually turns in an application which fulfills the requirements of 21223 and can qualify as having been submitted. In the engineers on the page down the corner of the site plan drawing, there are a series of engineers' notes. And those start out with the inaccuracies. One of the notes says that the side yard, the south yard, is 7 feet and 1/4 feet long, wide. This dimension is not accurate. As demonstrated last fall, the side yard from the existing 1-story structure to the property line is between 9.5 to 10 feet wide. So the 7 1/4 foot measurement is false. The notes also state that the plan that had been submitted in April of last year did not acknowledge that the existing structure, which was supposed to be removed, was the only entrance to the basement, which would mean if you remove that structure, there'd be no way of getting in for the laundry area and mechanicals. That statement is not accurate. In September of last year, the building inspector did an inspection, a site inspection, and he wrote a letter to the board in which he said, during the inspection, it was shown that the original house has one basement with access from inside the kitchen and an entrance from the exterior on the north side of the building. As this letter states, the basement area with the laundry and mechanicals has two entrances, not one, as the engineer's notes state. The engineer's notes is false. Another note, it mentioned that the proposed lot coverage, well, it doesn't say this. The proposed lot coverage, if you measure and do the math, the lot coverage exceeds the maximum allowable by the village code. So the note says that they have calculated the lot coverage, taking into consideration that they intend to use a pervious paving system. And so they've already factored into their assessment of the size of the lot coverage. The problem is that the planning board is bound to obey the law as it is written. And the village code makes no allowance for allegedly pervious paving systems. The only village entity which can interpret law is the zoning board of appeals. So if the applicant wants to use pervious paving systems as a means of reducing his allowable lot coverage, legally he has to get permission from the ZBA. It's just like getting a variance. The site plan notes make the point that all depictions and representations from the board's approval last year remain in full force and effect. There are two important points regarding that. First of all, is to understand that your approval last year is not written in stone. General condition number 3 from the approval resolution, the planning board maintains a continuing jurisdiction over their approval. There are those who feel that once you've made the decision, you're done with it, but that is not the case. And the general condition number 3 makes that point. The other thing is case law makes the same point. If you look at the matter of 1066 Land Corporation versus the planning board of the town of Austerlitz, the decision says, despite the lack of statutory authority, a planning board may reconsider a determination if there has been material change in circumstances since the original approval, or if new evidence is presented. As the matter of 1066 Land Corporation states, the owner's unlawful construction in violation of the conditions of the board's approval and in violation of law changes everything. This board's continuing jurisdiction now comes into play. As far as the plan drawing itself, the existing 2-story house is misrepresented as being longer than it actually is. So the depiction of the length of the house is false. The configuration of the older 1.5-story addition is being represented as shorter than it actually is. So again, the depiction of the length of that addition is false. It is a matter of basic math that in real life, 12.5 feet is exactly the same measurement as 12 feet, 6 inches. But if you look at the south property line. The distance from the house to the south property line, it shows 12 feet, 6 inches as actually being about a foot longer than 12.5 feet. Both measurements are measured and they're each depicted differently in the site plan drawing. So the depiction of these measurements is false. The next door neighbor at 11 Prospect Street, who couldn't be here tonight, has been having problems with stormwater runoff onto their property. The site plan indicates that 7 Prospect Street side yard adjacent to 11 Prospect will be filled and regraded. However, the indicated fill and grading on the site plan will only make the runoff problem worse. This needs to be cleared up. There needs to be a clear plan of remedy to take care of the runoff problems. The existing house is misrepresented as being an existing 6-bedroom house. In point of fact, 7 Prospect Street is actually an existing 7-bedroom house. Originally, they were supposed to have taken away 2 of the bedrooms, which were former treatment rooms for the contractor's office. And having done that, if they did that, it would have been 5 bedrooms, but they didn't. So the 5 bedrooms in the existing house, plus the 2 bedrooms in the portion of the building that they did not demolish, is a 7-bedroom house, not 6 bedrooms, as the plan indicates. The existing house is represented as being a multiple family dwelling. In fact, in the existing house, it only has 1 kitchen. So actually, according to the building code, it is a single family residence. This is a structural identity for the building. It is not structurally, it is not multifamily dwelling. Nevertheless, within the use and occupancy zoning context, a rooming house is a form of multifamily dwelling. So considering that 7 Prospect Street is in fact being used and occupied as a rooming house, as defined and explained by state law and by the New York Department of State, the zoning classification of this building as a multiple family dwelling would be construed as accurate within the use and occupancy zoning context. However, multifamily dwellings generally, and rooming houses in particular, are illegal for use on Prospect Street. As demonstrated in 2021 in the matter of Mensch versus the Planning Board of the Village of Warwick, the court ruled against the planning board, which had a property use that did not comply with the zoning of the Village of Warwick. Besides the other legal problem aspects of 7 Prospect, for the board to make a determination which would allow the continuation of the prohibited use would be legally unsustainable. The New York Department of State, in their legal memorandum LU-05, defining family, makes the point that when one refers to a single family dwelling, it is important to do so in the proper context. In other words, the state building code is one way of looking at a single family dwelling, and the zoning use and occupancy is another. And it's important not to confuse them. The state makes that point. However, most people who are in favor of this project tend to misconstrue the context of a single family dwelling. The recent site plan contains a clear indication that it is the owner's intent to continue the illegal rooming house use. And the proposed addition of the expansion will also be an expansion of the use. 5 Prospect Street next door is owned by the same owner. It was constructed as a 2-unit.
Excuse me, Mr. Dunn, could we keep the comments just to 7 Prospect Street, and please, we have a number of more public comments, so I would just ask that you wrap up quickly, please.
Okay. The first giveaway of the expected rooming house use at 7 Prospect Street is the site plan parking. The parking shows 10 proposed parking spaces. That is 1 space per bedroom. A family house does not have 1 place per bedroom. The example is 5 Prospect Street. It's 6 bedrooms, but only has 4 parking spaces. So the fact that they show 10 parking spaces is a clear indication, 1 parking space per bedroom, that this is going to be a rooming house. Well, you could look at the rest.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
The next speaker is June Wheeler.
June Miller, 15 Prospect Street. Hello again. And thank you for your continued service. I respect that projects coming before you get considered on a case-by-case basis on their own specific legal merits. However, over time in New Paltz, such decisions trend towards privileging developers who seem never to be held responsible for their mistakes over long-term residents who have to live with and next to such mistakes. For example, in the case of 7 Prospect, what recourse will its neighbors, myself and my neighbors, have when the site plans promised shade trees aren't planted or aren't cared for so that they will eventually provide the promised screen between plants? What recourse will we have if flooding of the basement at 11 Prospect and the driveway at 15 Prospect, my house, continues or becomes even worse? There's standing water at this very moment in the ruts left next to Dr. Nash's house. It's been there all summer. After a week of no rain, there's still standing water in those ruts. We got very little rain yesterday. There's more. Clearly, the compacted fill there is not permeable, and I have an answer as to why the flooding of my driveway on the other side of Dr. Nash is worse than ever. I assume because the 7 Prospect project's repeated grading with fill that has more large stones, clay, and chunks of concrete in it than permeable earth. That makes sense to me. New York state law allows character of the community, you've heard that a couple of times, to be considered in zoning disputes. Yet our beloved mayor seems determined to open up the villages and soon the towns, when he's the supervisor, our R2 neighborhoods to more developments of this type, using the mechanism of a new drastically expanded definition of family. Much of that definition is good. Much of it ignores character of a community. The village board has a position statement on that definition, but that is not code or law. You should be following the code, the law, the legal code. To become so, that position statement would have to be put to a referendum, which I highly doubt would pass. Tim wrote a Facebook post 4 days ago that said, I find it disheartening when detractors of projects before our planning or legislative boards argue against projects using dated, discriminatory, un-New Paltz, and legally impermissible definitions of family. So since he's talking about us, I would like to defend against those 4 things. Dated? No, it's our current legal zoning. That definition that we're using. Discriminatory? How is it discriminatory to support family housing? On New Paltz, no. What would New Paltz be without families choosing to live here for the excellent K-12 public school district who give back like you do through volunteer service on our boards, our commissions, our emergency services, if they can find a home to move into? Legally impermissible? The law in the form of R2 zoning is on our side. The mayor's position statement further states that any group of students or other unrelated renters may occupy a dwelling unit provided that they are maintaining a common household. But how are the strangers in a rental by the room building maintaining a common household? They have the same roof over their heads, I suppose. That's probably about it. We've actually met with a neighbor in one of their other buildings who was afraid to use the kitchen that's provided in the place, because it's scary to him. And if neighbors suspect or know that such a building is illegally overcrowded, how on earth can that be determined when the building inspector isn't allowed to check up on things once the structure is approved to be built? Tim went on to say in that Facebook post that no village staff member should be performing privacy invading or inappropriate work involving the tracking of blood relations, whether individuals have chosen to marry or other personal choices. We fully agree with that. We're not asking for any of that, God forbid. But then he says, such overreaches are known to disproportionately impact marginalized populations. I'm not sure what marginalized populations he's talking about, but I would say, don't people from so-called marginalized populations also have families and also have an interest in living in a residential 1 and 2 family home neighborhood where such homes haven't been successively bought up and turned into rentals by the room? We all support keeping the definition of family broad so as not to discriminate against non-traditional family housing structures. We have plenty of them on our street. We love them. We are them. However, shouldn't stability versus transiency be taken into account as part of that definition? The village's own recently enacted short-term rental law had stability as one of its prime objectives, recognizing that families, i.e. long-term residents, are the ones who step up, like yourselves, to serve on our volunteer boards and commissions, our EMS and fire department, to provide the kind of community volunteerism that makes a place like New Paltz not only functional, but vibrant. We have heard from tenants of other Prospect Estates properties who are absent tonight for fear of reprisals, that tenants' complaints about careless and even dangerous stewardship of these properties have gone unanswered. The developer has betrayed our trust over and over again with this project, and its single room occupancy tenants likely won't add to our community volunteer boards and committees, which save New Paltz taxpayers thousands of dollars every year. Its approval would be a betrayal not just of its Prospect Street neighbors, but of the larger community. Prospect Estates has been shown to be untrustworthy, and since once a project is approved, seemingly no one has oversight afterwards. This board, you, have an enormous responsibility tonight. The implications of builders and landlords continuing to be sided with and their removals of single and 2 family homes from New Paltz's rental housing stock are grave. Please look beyond even the established illegalities of this project and give notice that the precious resource for New Paltz's future, its 1 and 2 family zone neighborhoods, is no longer for sale to the greediest bidders. Thank you. And if you don't mind 1 second, Dr. Nash sent to Mr. Baden an email.
They have,
They have it?
Yes.
Okay.
that's up to the board to decide.
Absolutely, I understand that. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you so much.
Do you want to submit those?
Yes.
Thank you. The last speaker we have signed up is Noel McEntee.
I'll make this brief. Appreciate y'all being here. I know it's hard being on the other side of it, so thanks. My name is Noel McEntee, and I grew up in New Paltz. My husband and I bought our home at 29 Prospect Street in 2017, where we now live with our daughter. One of the 3 homes I've lived in here in New Paltz through my life, of the 3 homes that I've lived in New Paltz, 2 were previously used as student rentals. My first was my childhood home on Plains Road, which had been student housing for nearly 2 decades. My parents spent years renovating it, honoring its 260-year history. The constant turnover and short-term leases nearly let a historic home fall into disrepair. If not for 3 years of steady work by multiple people, it may not have been salvageable. In our current home, we've had to undo the careless layout left by an absentee landlord who added temporary walls to squeeze 5 bedrooms into a 1,400 square foot home. One of those rooms had no closet, a single outlet, and a sliding glass door as a wall. We've spent years restoring it. When I see an application to convert another single-family home into a 2-family property, especially with a layout that looks optimized to be rented by the room, I can't help but feel concerned. To be clear, I support more affordable housing and was proud to advocate for it when I served on this planning board in 2019 and 2020. But I also know the difference between development that meets community needs and development that prioritizes profit, especially when it results in dense, high turnover student rentals. This proposal feels like the latter. Even the floor plan raises concerns. The living room in the proposed second unit is only about 3 feet wide, essentially a hallway, while a large living room labeled den could easily be used as a 5th bedroom. When a home is designed with minimal shared space and maximum sleeping quarters, it starts to function more like a boarding house than a family unit. The definition of family in zoning can be complex and evolving, as Jim was speaking to, but proposals like this one can easily get around its intent, turning homes into mini dorms instead of providing stable, long-term housing. My concern isn't theoretical, it's personal and lived. Lastly, I have serious concerns about the applicant's ability to maintain additional units since we've already seen the persistent issues at the 14 other properties they own in the area. Trash buildup, abandoned furniture, deteriorating retaining walls, falling overhangs, and unshoveled snow. Adding more density without proper oversight only compounds these problems. I know it's been clarified that this topic isn't within the board's purview, but it's not brought up here, then where should it be brought up? I urge the planning board to look beyond the blueprints and consider the broader impact on our neighborhood, on our housing stock, and on the future of New Paltz. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would you like to submit that?
Sure.
Thank you. That's the last person signed up,
Okay.
and there is.
Is there anyone else here in this room that would like to make a public comment? Yes. Okay, given that, I'd like a motion to close the public hearing for PB 2415. And can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to our first application review then, can we have PB 2512 to 22 Main Street?
Yeah, before we call the next application, I think it's really important, at least it is to me, that we consider the idea that I recommended some time ago, some guidelines around public hearing and public comment. That I think ironically, maybe they were adopted in a meeting that I missed, but I believe they were voted on and adopted.
Unfortunately, I don't think we ever
We
adopted.
never did.
Yeah,
So I'm asking us to bring that back and to revisit those ideas and decide whether those are important to us as a volunteer planning board or not.
agreed.
Because what's happening in our public hearings is that all of the things that I cited are in many ways unfair to the process of the board continue to happen in public hearings. The things that are cited in there is the length of people's comments, that repetition of comments, inaccuracies, tangents, presumptions, character assassinations are all things that we agree weren't appropriate to enter into the public hearing. And in 45 minutes into our meeting today, where there might have been a lot of really valid points made, but many of the points that were made were exactly what I recommended some time ago. We have to find a way to at least advise against, if not have the right to interrupt and govern what happens at our meetings, or there's just lots of irrelevant information, lots of time that no one here who's an additional applicant deserves to have to spend. And quite frankly, as a volunteer member of this planning board, I'm not really willing to tolerate it very much longer. And, you know, it's my 6th year serving here. I think I should have, maybe a little bit of, you know, goodwill to have that consideration brought back to this board. Because the time we're spending, the information we're getting in these public hearings are full of the things, the exact things that I recommended we should ask to prohibit because they're not effective in helping us make decisions about projects.
Yeah, thank you for that. We will definitely revisit that, at the next meeting. Could we have our first application review come up then for 222 Main Street?
Just for the board members, we didn't have large drawings, so in your package are the 4 sections of the 4 different north, south, east, and west. And the design review board comments, which just came, both of these just came in at the last minute.
Right.
Want to make sure you were aware.
Yes, so unfortunately, we didn't have much time to review the new information, but do you want to just walk us through what the design review board said and you know, how you're meeting with them on?
So we met with them yesterday and they said they were excited about the project, the renovation, that the building needed some love for quite a long period of time. And they had 3 recommendations for me based on what was proposed. They recommended reconsidering my composite siding to something like hardy board or LP siding. They said if I do shutters, they recommend me doing wood shutters. And they wanted me to upgrade my window profiles using simulated divided lights or SDLs for a more authentic appearance. And the 4th one, where my HVAC system currently sits in the same spot where it was in the previous building, they recommended that it be shifted away to the southwest corner of the building. And those were the main 4 pieces of feedback that they gave me. Everything else was relatively positive. They like the AD ramp, they like the roof, stuff like that.
Okay. And so are any of those recommendations reflected in the plans here?
No, they were not reflected in the plans, because when I had to work on the plans, I had a miscommunication of what an elevation map was, because I don't do this. I thought it was a topographical map, so I was dealing with land surveyors. But no, they're not reflected in the plans.
What's the main difference between the 2 types of siding?
So hardy board is a concrete kind of based siding, with the durability of like 50 years for its like lifespan. And it can like, it's a little bit harder to like clean. You can't like clean with a power washer and stuff. Sometimes you need to do like caulking around the windows. The composite siding that I'm using is still has about 30+ year lifespan on it. And it's really just hardy board is a more premium product. It's arguably the most premium product on the market for siding. But my composite siding has some insulation in it. So there's some insulation factors for the climate inside the building for the insulation. But it's still a durable, fire resistant, warp resistant siding that I propose, and it's significantly cheaper.
Is it a cost issue more than anything, or is it?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out.
100%.
Okay.
I mean, the inside of my building, once you guys all are invited to see it, it's very nice, because I'm young, I want to be there for a long period of time, I want it to be a reflection of me. I look at hardy board first and foremost And I was like, oh, I can afford hardy board based on everything else that the building kind of needed. So the additional cost of hardy board just had to be cut to something more cost effective, which is why I upgraded the vinyl siding to this composite siding. Because I didn't want like a vinyl kind of siding. I have it on my house and I hate it, so I didn't want it on my building. So I went to the composite because I knew hardy board just wasn't in the budget.
But yeah, that's understandable.
But it's more durable, you say, it lasts longer.
Well, technically hardy board does last longer on paper, but depending on like which sites you're looking at, basically hardy board's up to 50 years. The composite can be 30 to 50 years, so you're still getting about a 30-year lifespan out of a composite. But it mimics like a natural wood grain texture, so it'll still aesthetically look more appealing based on the composite material than a vinyl, but it's not made of the concrete.
The design review board is advisory, not.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about further on the siding? There's another comment in the design review board recommendation that says, in comment two about the siding, it says. Likewise, the proposed shingle solution for the gable ends might be improved by using the same materials, though the product presented during our review remains a possible option.
Yeah.
What is the proposed shingle solution for the gable ends?
It's something similar to the hardy board or the LP. There's companies that make the shingles similar to the hardy board and the LP. So I think they're referring to that because I don't know if hardy board itself makes a shingle. So they were saying there's different products that have that similar kind of makeup.
So party board is a brand.
Hardy board's a brand.
So you're making, so you're using two materials in the, one is the gable ends has these shingle products.
Yes.
And then the siding is the composite.
Yeah, and I think,
We had shared it last time.
yeah, I wanna see if it's the same company. I don't think no, it's not the same company yet.
And they're saying that likewise, I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand if there's something else to explore, that proposed single solution to the gable ends might be improved, though the product presented during a review remains possible. Okay, so they're just saying that the gable product is a possible option. In other words, they're not recommending against that, they're only recommending in favor of the hardy board for the site.
Yeah, they said they wanted to stick to more natural materials. Which is why they wanted me to get away from like a composite or something.
Yeah,
The east elevation is a good depiction of.
yeah, we have it, thank you.
Okay. I was wondering if there was a updated site plan that shows.
There's an updated site plan that I believe I submitted. It had the landscaping.
Okay,
That are on the
yeah,
perimeter.
I guess you can't find that one.
Was that the one you emailed me?
I think it was last week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's in there and it's titled,
Oh, maybe updated site plan one. Okay. And it has the parking spaces numbered, that's the one.
they both had the parking spaces numbered. This one in the top right corner had 3 symbols. And it had the type of plants that I was proposing.
I don't think that's this one. Do you,
I may have it on my laptop.
I could probably put it up on the screen if you'd like.
yeah, if you
Yeah, it'll
could
take
do that.
just a moment, but I should be able to. All right, the pictures a second.
Well, while we wait, is there any Um. For the sign, or, yeah, signs, yeah.
So for the sign, with the existing sign, it's big enough, so we're just gonna put something over the existing sign and just put like my logo on it and just kind of keep it as is for now.
Okay.
But no major renovations to the existing sign.
See,
Zach, can we go back to one design review board comment as
Oh.
well? Because I saw your rebuttal to the three things. In terms of the window grills,
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like they're suggesting you eliminate the window grills. They're just suggesting that you use those that are exterior to the glass as opposed to in.
yeah, the
between them.
simulated divider line ones.
Right,
Yeah.
and then is there, just, I think their recommendation is that that's a better aesthetic.
Yeah, they just said from when you look at a window,
Right.
and you have it on the exterior of the window, it looks more authentic to
Yeah.
a window as opposed to having
Yeah.
the grill lines within the panes.
Yeah, and I think that in your response, you were kind of suggesting you wanted to have grills, but you weren't refuting their choice of, their recommendation for the type of grill.
Right, the type of grills though are also the most expensive type of grills you can put on a window at about a 20% upcharge for having exterior grills versus interior grills. So just from like an aesthetic, I still think they look fine personally, and I don't think they justify the cost because replacing every window throughout the entire building,
Yeah,
about 20-ish% markup.
so there's not a recommendation or request to omit the grills, it's to put in the different kinds, and I think, you know, these are kind of two examples where we have to be thoughtful about the imposition on a property owner to have, you know, the highest end product or highest end material. That, you know, that just might not be within budget, even though it might be you know, design review board recommendation. So I just, it's come up in other cases, in a few cases, and I just want.
Brandon, I'm not sure I received it, because I'm not seeing it, I apologize.
Okay, well, I can send it as soon as we're done, because I'm already connected to the Wi-Fi.
It's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, and I will say that the proposal, from what we've seen so far, is a significant improvement to what is existing.
Yeah, sorry, Zach, it appears I.
Do you want me to pull up on my
So,
laptop? I mean,
I have the old site, put that up, and that's.
I really just see the,
yeah, I really just put a couple symbols around in various areas to show like I was into hostas, estills, and like Japanese.
Yeah, I definitely did not receive that,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
yeah, I suppose, I mean, if it's easy.
Yeah, I'll see if I have
it.
You could log in and share it if you like.
No, that,
Yeah, I'll just try to find it real quick. Let me see, maybe I sent it to the design review board.
That could be.
And again, this is only improvements on the village part of the parcel. There's nothing for the town to do.
Yeah, the town is like a very small sliver.
The only thing located in the town portion is the parking and the access to the property. The structure, the sign, everything else is all of the.
Okay, you have to move it around a little bit, but. There, so. There's the legend of the landscaping on the site plan, it's just around the perimeter. Whoops, and now I'm marking it up, but.
I see. Okay.
If you want to.
But you will send that to us for the next.
So there's no changes to the, like, existing landscaping? I thought there was maybe like, like a dead tree on the property, or you,
There's a dead tree, yes,
okay.
but there's a process to get a dead tree removed.
Right.
which I'm down to do, but on the organized siting work.
Understood, and in the site plan, the AC unit that's shown, is that where
Yeah, so
they
the,
recommended it, or?
the condenser, where it currently was when I bought the building, we put it in the same spot when the HVAC was replaced.
So you've already put in a new HVAC and it replaced existing
It replaced existing.
and.
Which elevation did you look up to see the condition?
I don't know if my architect put that in the elevation, but that would be, I think, the south, no,
Maybe the west.
the west elevation.
It's not, it's not on what we have.
So that's not,
We had that
yeah,
west elevation. But the youth on that. Right. And what's the recommendation of the design review board? Place it there
southwest corner of the building.
as opposed to.
The-
It's still on the west side.
It's on the west side, just
Move it to
further away from
rear
it.
corner.
Yeah,
Alright.
I assume that's an additional expense to have it moved.
maybe, I know they did it in the efficient way, because they put all the tubing in the wall, so nothing's exposed on the exterior of the building, and not tubing, the ductwork is already in the wall. So that's where, so it's to not have exterior ductwork. So I'm gonna say, yes, it's probably gonna be an additional, plus the HUD where the AC unit is, or is in the attic of that space, and everything branches out there. So for efficiency, I don't think it's the most efficient design either.
Hi, I'm Eric, I work with Dr. Barnos, I've been doing it with Buck. Also, where they propose it is right where the kids' youth center is their basketball hoop, right at that fence. So we've been finding that, plus there's only from the fence to the corner of the building, the kids seem to walk through there because they do have a solid wooden fence there. That seems to be a pass through, and Dr. Harness doesn't want to block all that off and doesn't want to put fences up. But so we do find periodically, particularly on the weekends for some reason, there's basketballs in the parking lot. And that where they want to put the unit would need to be placed closer to the basketball hoops, which is where they come around the fence to get their balls that come over the fence. Also, it would also put it into the parking lot. So where they're proposing would actually put it in our blacktop in the existing parking lot. So,
Let's see. Well, I'm not opposed to where it is, I think if it was screened.
Yeah,
With landscaping or,
I'll put a shrub in front of it.
that would be okay.
So the couple of the elevation had the position of it.
Okay.
It positioned on it.
Yeah.
And the screening that you used.
Yeah, with no elevation, correct. Okay, yeah, that's easy.
yeah, it sits in a nook there, because that's an indent in the
I think I
building.
can see where.
Yeah, it sits in a nook, so it's actually a little bit further from the youth center driveway, which gets a lot of traffic with kids.
There are any other site plan? Questions? Could you just pull up the site plan again?
Do you want me to zoom in by the landscaping or just the general?
Yeah, I mean. So you're gonna add some landscaping around the AC unit. I think I would also like to see is the sign on the town
I
lot?
have two signs. I have a sign on the village and there's
Oh.
a sign that existed on the town. Sign that existed on the town parcel no longer has a sign attached to it, but the posts are still there. But the sign on the town, on the village, that one still is standing as it was when I bought it.
So which sign will you be using?
I probably will end up using both if I have two signs.
You may have to go to the town for their.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'm not gonna put up a new sign at the town. I'm gonna keep the one in the village currently, and then once everything gets functional, then maybe that's my new pet project.
Okay, so it is marked on the site plan, that little, the little dots with the line is where the sign is.
Yeah, right here is the sign. And I believe this is my other sign that's by the mailbox, but this is the village and the town.
Understood. Yeah, I guess I would also just recommend some landscaping plantings up there as well.
By the sign?
Yeah.
You got it.
The sign posts are actually steel, so I just noticed that, so it's actually in good shape. So there's no changing that, but take a while to get it out.
Great. Are there any other comments on the site plan or the elevations? Things that the board wants to see?
So the site plan that's the overhead, of the site includes this new addition of landscaping. But, the elevations don't include any of the landscaping.
Correct.
If we could just have that, I think we can kind of piece together what it's gonna look like. But,
Elevation with landscaping.
well, I'm just thinking like, we had that, you fooled us with that great rendering.
Mhm.
From that ChatGPT rendering, so we were thinking that was the landscaping, which looks great. And
Yeah.
hostas instead of those shrubs could be
Yeah.
fine. But we just wanna see it complete, because
Uh-huh.
it really becomes an important part of the appearance of the building.
Got it.
And I'm surprised that the town review board didn't look into that, but if we could just see as complete as you can, a depiction of what the landscaping will look like in the positions visually where it will exist. I think we can see whether that's sufficient, whether we might recommend some enhancements to it, just because it would be a real missed opportunity to not just do that little bit of beautification.
I do not want an ugly building.
Right, and that's a reasonable cost recommendation.
Yeah.
To add a few more.
Absolutely.
So if we could just see the best depiction you can, of the landscaping would be great.
Works.
Deer always eat long distance. Yeah, they love them.
Okay, and so I believe those are the only items, I mean, I think this board should sort of decide on the design recommendations. I assume that you, based on your rebuttal, you're asking to use the composite siding and the same windows.
Yeah. That's the main change.
I mean,
And I'll add landscaping to the condenser.
One question about that, Zach, does the composite siding have a similar finish and texture to the recommendation of hardy board?
Hardy board is a little bit
I
different.
mean, they make them in all types of textures and.
This is the texture of the siding. So it might not be white, so it has like the wood for, this is the siding sample.
Yeah.
And it has the 12-inch batten, there's a 10-inch batten as well.
Yeah.
But it will be, the building's wrapped in foam,
Yeah.
so this will be more solid, the siding will not bend or be flexible, because of the backing.
I'm just asking around the appearance, whether we can do the best we can to match the integrity of the appearance of the hardy board, which I understand.
Well, the second recommendation was LP siding, which is like a wood, it's like an epoxy treated wood.
Mhm.
So then this would be more mimics the epoxied wood that they proposed as opposed to the hardy board. But from a distance, this would probably look decently similar to a hardy board unless you're up close. Especially in the white color, in my opinion.
Thanks.
and what was your, they also ask something about the shutters. What was your
shutters?
decision on the shutters?
They just told me if I was gonna do shutters, so I said initially, sometimes with these battens, it's hard to hang shutters. And then
Right.
somebody on the board said, well, if you do a hinge, you can easily hang shutters on the batten with a hinge. But they said if you do that, then they would recommend use wood shutters as opposed to vinyl shutters. So that was the recommendation. It's just they looked at the shutters and they said we recommend wood on a hinge if you're gonna put it on.
Those are all ornamental anyhow, right?
I mean, are you proposing to do that or no? Just
Well, right now, as of now, no, I would see how the batten falls before I would propose maybe putting on a shutter. But that's where initially my siding guy said we would do more like ornamental trim around the windows if we're not gonna put a shutter in place. So as discussed with my siding person, we're gonna go for a higher quality or higher end trim around the windows to make it pop a little bit more as opposed to putting on the shutters at this time.
That makes sense.
If you could, when you're doing the renderings, to Rich's point, just to the extent you can provide that detail, that would be useful, so we can get the unified look.
Okay, so I mean, I take the board does not feel that requiring party board siding is necessary.
No.
Nope.
I mean, I
They're
agree.
both fake. So like one type of fake wood as opposed to another type of fake wood.
Well put,
I
yes.
mean,
And were there any comments on the window types? Or does it also feel like they are small enough visual difference that it doesn't make a difference?
I'm comfortable with the
I'm not,
internet grills that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the owner.
okay. I think
And I
that's
think, you
fine
know,
as
just for the
well.
record, it's, we wanna honor the design review board as often as we can, and at the same time, we wanna be thoughtful about costly positions that might not be within someone's budget, that might have a slightly incremental, aesthetic benefit, so with all due respect to their recommendations, I think I'm comfortable with both.
they didn't tell you
Great.
what color it had to be, did they?
Not yet.
So in that case, I think, we have just those small changes to the site plan that we requested. And I mean, given that those are the only, and the small additions to that elevations, those are the only things I would recommend that we draft a motion of approval. So could I get a motion authorizing our attorney to draft a resolution of approval for next meeting, if we have, these things ready for that next meeting.
So,
So move. Second, sorry, whatever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, so just get those to us as soon as
ASAP,
possible, and we will hopefully have you.
Brendan, it's 3 weeks until our next meeting, so if you could get this to me by Monday, the 28th, that would
Yeah,
be great.
probably by like Monday this week. So,
Even better.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next application review is PB 2415, 7 Prospect Street.
You got a second?
Yeah, we're second.
Mr. Chairman, may I just address an issue before we get into this?
Absolutely.
So I just want to remind the board of, the determination of what uses are allowed. That's a determination that's made by the building inspector and was made some time ago, over a year ago. That the use that's proposed on the site is in compliance with the building. So that's not something that this board can opine on. A neighbor has appealed that to the ZBA. The ZBA rules that the appeal was too late. That has now been brought to a court challenge. So that is all happening in another forum, but it's not for this board's consideration. In other words, that it is a 2-family house that's proposed and that is compliant with the zoning.
thank you. That was a major question.
Okay,
And if I could also point out,
Yeah.
there have been a number of references about rooming house. Rooming house and boarding house very clearly are defined in the village code as requiring owner occupancy on the property. And this property is not proposing that. And so this has been characterized as a rooming house, but the owner is not occupying the premises and then renting out the rooms. So that's why this does not meet the village's definition of rooming house.
thank you. I guess one of the, where I wanted to start was, last time there were some, statements that some of the drawings were incorrect. Did you get a chance to review those, and are all of the current plans correct? Were there any updates to those
I
plans?
updated the plan. The gentleman was right about the gable on the north side. So,
Okay.
what I did this time was, I took that out. I looked on the aerial photograph and saw a line, and I thought that was the transverse gable. So here's the front. And I had showed that gable coming off. This is all the ARB's comments, and there are keys, and they're all scattered throughout the drawing. And this is an aerial, a front photo of the building. Now, while it has a transverse gable on the other side, you can't see it from the street. Either one of them, they're invisible unless you're on the property. So that's the one that's, in the front on this side. And the one that I drew on that side was removed. The length item, he keeps going back to June plans, and we submitted in July, and we submitted drainage plans, so all the notes that the architectural review board wanted, they're keyed throughout the drawings, and it's as if it's written in stone. Comments about what a licensed surveyor did to move the lot line to exactly 12.5 feet. Some of that work just turns out to be accurate. And there's a lot of that, and I don't want to address each one here. I don't think it's a good forum.
Sure.
So we've done what you asked. I did speak with Dennis Larios, after he, reviewed the drainage plan. And we both concurred that there is no more water being generated off this site. In fact, there are some improvements. So that takes care of some of the comments about number 11. Those roof drains are plumbed into the ground at her basement. So if they're not solid piped and out to the street, that's why she might have a drainage problem.
But we're not here to talk about that.
Right, so
Zach, in terms of the area, we did get a memo from the building inspector.
Yes.
And he clarified all of the dimensions and how those were all accurate. But there were a few changes that needed to be made for consistency in terms of the window, the window in 2 locations and the chimney from 1 elevation. Which are the same.
right,
No specs.
you're fixed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this was, Alex and I reviewed the June 14th plans. We submitted this on the 10th.
Yeah.
To Mr. Maluso, and he made those corrections on the 14th, July 14th.
Right.
So when you say that no more water is going to be going onto their property, no more than what? Is there currently an
So
issue
the
with
standard is, basically what happened in the past. And now what does this project do to change that? And so it's not just, you imagine an inch of water on the property, just an inch. Where would it go? Some of it would go off to the west, some of it would go off to the north. Some of it would fall on the east side of the house in the south and make its way out to Prospect Street. When you consider the amount of impervious area that was previously there, removing the barn and all that paving that led up to the barn is an offset on what's being added back. So at one point in time, the lot wasn't in compliance with the drainage requirements it was like 31% coverage.
And now it's under 30%, and that goes to removing the big barn and the roof that used to shed its water onto number 11 going to the north. Now that water doesn't go on number 11, it goes west. There are under drains along the building, along the driveway, and those generate water from the gutter system in the roof, but they also go out to the west. They don't go north anymore. So the proposed improvements actually, it's not just how much water comes off, it's like, what are we doing with it? And we're directing it into another place to accommodate number 11.
Right, so you're saying that what you're doing to the drainage is going to cause less water
Less,
than was previously going onto their property.
correct.
And my question was there previously a significant amount of water going onto their property? So
I would
let's
say
say there were less water, but it's still an amount of water. Do you
Well, so
understand what
number
I'm asking
11,
you?
all of those roof drains in her driveway are very low. And if you go there, you'll see that there's moss growing on the south side of her house. So that's a long-term condition.
Mhm.
Number 15, the same thing. If you drive down the road, you'll notice there's a driveway and there's a big puddle in the middle of it. That's not from number 7. That's from number 11. That roof on the north side of number 11 sheds water toward 15. So when you live in a closely knit neighborhood, those things happen. They happen less when it's planned, and more so when it's an older neighborhood that, you know, has character that it has. And the houses are built one at a time over a series of years, centuries maybe. And each one does generate some water.
I just want to make sure the board is aware, we do have a memo from Dennis Larios explaining what he found, yeah.
We have a memo and we have a request for a site visit from Dr. Nash. But they look like Dennis Larios's opinion was done on July 10th, and the request for the site visit came after that event.
That is correct. So the request yesterday, I got a email from one of the residents, not the owner of 11, asking for me to put, quote unquote, put this together. I responded back that, you know, with Mr. Larios coming out on site, there's a cost. And then today I received, or yeah, I guess it was today, I received that second request, and I said I would refer it to this board because somebody would have to pay for Dennis's time. And my opinion is he's made his ruling, and so it's up, if this board wants that, him to explore further, I would want to come to this, so.
Thanks. Yeah, I think the memo is explicit, and it says that the post-development drainage runoff will be lower than pre-development. And it gives a couple of reasons why, which are partly what the applicant is sharing. It'd be pretty unusual for us to have an engineering site visit for a residential project like this. I don't think we've ever done it.
Yeah, I agree that
And I
doesn't
think
feel necessary. to me.
there is something that's valid that we should acknowledge, that I can acknowledge, is that the idea that there's currently standing water, the idea that there's now tire trenches filled with water, the idea that there's still sitting there in piles is all true. And I think the most important thing is to make sure that there's a project that has an end state where all of that is resolved. And in its resolution, improves the former circumstance. And so the current, you know, I walk by every day, the current status is true, and it's exactly what we're trying to remedy through this engineering.
It's too bad that the stop work order couldn't have been a little more nuanced. I mean, couldn't you limit it to the building itself, but not restrict them from making improvements? Like, for example, dealing with the pile.
Well, I think the intermediate result stunk because of what is left in this period of time. But the intent from Alex, I think, is valid, which is that why would I let you continue to do something that's not yet approved by the engineer? You could make it worse, or you could do something that's irreversible. So I think, Alex was being cautious, but the circumstance it's left in this interim period is not good for the neighbors or the neighborhood.
And I think it goes to one of the comments multiple comments that came up about no oversight. So it's a struggle, right? Because that is oversight. And that is,
A lot of oversight.
that is not just an approval and then a free for all. And the building department needs to be able to exercise their discretion in what that oversight is. And it's a challenge.
So what happens when you don't get a building permit? You avoid taxes for 20 years and you go to sell the house and it comes up that you have an extra bedroom. They make someone hire someone like me to punish them, to draw a set of plans to show the new bedroom, that the septic system is sized appropriately for the extra bedroom, and it's submitted. And I have to say it meets code. And if I can't open that wall and look at the wiring and see if they put little plates on, I can't say it meets, not the 2020 code, not the 2010 code, but the 2020 code, the current code. They can't get that approved. They have to take it down. So a lot of times when the building inspector isn't involved, they call a professional engineer to do what he would have done if he had been there all along. So I can sign off on this project when all of these things are done to your satisfaction. I can make up a checklist, go through it with Alex, and we'll say it's where it needs to be. It's what happens anyway. If someone doesn't get a building permit, in the end, they call Anthony or someone else like Dennis Larios to do the investigation, draw a set of plans, submit it, and certify that the work and the design meets the code.
Right, I trust our building inspector,
Yeah.
and building department to
Yeah.
handle that. That's not what we're focused on right here, but
There was also a question raised in the public hearing about recourse. So it's important for the board to be reminded that if a site plan is approved, it is required to be, the construction is required to be completed in the totality of the approved site plan. And the recourse is that they would not have a certificate of occupancy.
Right.
And or in certain cases, we've required bonds that set aside the funds so that someone else will complete the work using those resources. So the recourse is that, the building inspector will inspect the completion of this project and will not provide a certificate of occupancy until it's complete. And that includes every last tree and every last shrub and every last detail that you've committed to in the application.
That's what we did on Park Prospect, and every shrub we had committed to, it was there. We do not cut corners.
Yeah, I'm just
Just
saying to answer the question raised.
Absolutely.
That
everything will be met on this item.
okay, were there any other questions about the current plans or the drainage plans? The board?
It's not so much a question, but it's been raised several times. And it's about this weighing of character of the community and the neighborhood. And I understand, look, I am past that site multiple times a week. It does feel large, but I don't know that it is substantially diminishing the character of the neighborhood on the side of the edge, where it is towards Main Street. There are a number of large homes that have been renovated, added on to, changed up and down Main Street, for purposes of housing. And so I grew up in New Paltz. I've known this neighborhood. I spent a lot of time in this neighborhood as a child, as a teenager. And I just want to put it on the record that as somebody who, no, I did not live there, but I am not cognizant of that component of the review. I agree. I've been thinking about it a lot because what you have here is you have kind of a border or or what you need is a buffer. And I think that's the most important part of this project, is that there's some kind of a buffer, because you basically have two totally different neighborhoods that are up against each other, you know? I mean, basically you have a bus station and a gas station and, you know, and then you have the single family homes. And so I noticed in the code changes, there was proposed something to do with buffers, and I think that, you know, it's really important that in this particular, I know that you guys have tried to do that to a certain extent, but that there's some kind of a buffer that the neighbors agree on. That this is the kind of buffer that they want, sort of as a, you know, like a concession to them, because, you know, it's, I don't think it has much to do with anybody's character. It's a business, you know. You're in the business of renting places, they're homeowners, it's a different type of, you know, it's a different type of occupation, different type of use in a sense, and there should be some kind of a buffer between them. That's,
It's like a transition, like it's from
Yeah.
business to all neighborhood, and this is just at the beginning. And then this house basically, because number 5 is set so far back, you don't really see it. So number 7 is the beginning of the neighborhood, or the buffer to the neighborhood. And that's what you guys are doing. You're making us put in landscaping and make changes that make it more accommodating.
right.
I have a
mean,
question, because it's off the wall.
Okay,
Why did you put in an asphalt sidewalk when there was a beautiful blue
I
stone sidewalk?
hate asphalt sidewalks.
Conversation with that.
That was a long
It's
discussion.
Okay.
It's an important conversation
Don't even-
to have. So thanks for raising, go ahead, Zach.
No.
Thanks for raising that question, because, of course, something that I also think about, I also live very near this block. I live in a home that's literally surrounded by rental properties. I don't question who's renting them and the relationship they have to each other. I actually embrace and enjoy the young people primarily that live in the rentals that surround my home. But in terms of the character of this community, in particular, this immediate border between the B2 and R2 is that it is, again, a bus station, a cab stand, a coffee shop, a very commercial location with lots of pavement and parking, an auto, a gas station. There are many two-family homes on those blocks, or at least several, I have to count them. And there are many rentals on that block that aren't occupied by the homeowners. There's also a single-family home on that block, which actually has a substantial enough addition that resembles the size of the building that we're considering. And in terms of its lot coverage, while it has a permeable driveway, it has about 70% lot coverage, is my rough estimate, including a basketball court on the property line that's paved that was just approved with a variance. So there's all kinds of things happening on that block that don't detract it from being a beautiful block to live on. I'm not suggesting that all the folks that live on that block shouldn't be proud of the block. But I think what I see is that this construction is not something that detracts from the community character unless you're defining community character as the people that live in these buildings, or whether they volunteer, or whether they send children to your school. And we're not defining community character by virtue of the characteristics of the people that occupy these houses. We're defining it by the aesthetic appearance relative to what else happens within 20, 30 yards of this very lot. And so I empathize 100% with what it is to experience living in a situation where you're next door to those that own a home that's a rental. I don't agree that they can't ever be converted back. Matter of fact, one of the public hearing residents defined an experience where they can be converted back. And I hope one day, all the hard work we're doing in this board by approving, by rezoning the, the North Chestnut and, approving hundreds of apartments to be built there, might actually start to swing this in a different direction that might be more satisfying to the folks that are concerned with the fact that people are renting the houses around them. But I don't think, a project that is entirely according to code, and matter of fact, improves many aspects of the property is something that is against community character in the particular location it is. Because of the fact that that particular location is surrounded by structures and uses that are comparable and or more commercial than what this ultimately would be. And so I appreciate the question that has been raised, and I appreciate the request to consider it as one aspect of the application. And I feel as though it is relatively consistent, probably more consistent than a lot of other things we've seen.
Thank you. Yeah, and I would just like to add one quick thing on the topic of community character. I think it's important to keep this in context that it's really only adding a net of 3 bedrooms. So, 3 additional residents to this property. Yeah, I don't think that's going to affect the quality of life of the neighbors that drastically, that it will change the neighborhood in some way. So I agree. I think it's within the community character and addresses the goals of the zoning in this area.
Well, I guess I'm the one left standing. I respect all your opinions, but I heartily disagree. I think this is, it looks to me, it sounds to me like 2 single-family homes on 1 lot. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. And I think that's why people are reacting to it. I think it's completely out of character with everything to the north of it. How do you buffer this kind of thing? You don't continue to build into the buffer area the way we're doing this. However, whatever, here we are. But look, that's my opinion. I really do. I think it's, it was we tried to put a square peg in a round hole. It's 2 single-family houses on 1 lot.
Yeah. Well, we have to move on and reach a decision eventually. I believe that all of the concerns and questions have been addressed at this point. I'm ready to authorize our attorney to draft resolution approval. If there are no other questions at this point, I would like a motion to do so.
I have one question about the
Sure.
buffer. And that was that at the last meeting, it wasn't clear to me that there was an agreement between your immediate neighbor, Dr. Nash, and you about what an appropriate buffer would be. Like what kind of buffer would satisfy her? What would, I wasn't sure. It seemed like there was some disagreement about what trees you were gonna use and where they were gonna go, and I just wanna make sure that that gets resolved to
Yeah.
her
Well, we have a
satisfaction.
landscaping plan.
You seem open to her suggestions, but I don't know that they've been clearly made to you and agreed to.
It's my recollection that we went over the landscaping plan and that the neighbor to the north had reviewed it and actually had requested a particular change, that they wanted fewer trees in a particular location where they were originally located, and that was changed in that way. So I don't remember
That
that
was
we
the
had.
The fence.
Yeah.
Right, but she was satisfied with that in the end. I wasn't sure, because it didn't seem like it to me, but.
Well, the plan's complete and it's in front of the community and it's had a public hearing open for several meetings. So I hope that that means that is being satisfied. The process to create satisfaction has been implemented by the board.
Part of what I had offered her, when I was out surveying was we would raise the ground adjacent to her property and fence posts so that any water that sheeted off of number 7 would hit that little berm, and I would landscape it with bushes that she could choose. And then the water would be directed more toward, Prospect Street. So it wouldn't continue to run into her yard as it has done for forever.
Is that shown on the plan?
There's a little berm here, it shows.
And she was happy with that.
I'm not gonna speak for her because there's just things that I've heard her saying that just aren't accurate.
I know that, and I guess this question is directed to Emily. Something that's been raised repeatedly by the folks that have spoken in the public hearing has been about, maintenance and compliance and it doesn't seem as though there's any place for, reinforcement of the responsibility of an applicant to maintain their property and comply with code and adhere to the rental requirements of the village, et cetera. But I wanted to just ask because it seems as though what we're trying to do is reinforce the applicant that even though we may authorize a resolution, the idea that once this property is complete and if it is not maintained, it isn't going to have the intent and the safety and the appearance and all the qualities that we're approving in the context of an application. So I don't know if that's something that would appear in a resolution. I've never seen it in a resolution. But I guess what I'm just doing is reinforcing the idea that we're approving an application and it's in its completeness, but the expectation is still on the applicant to maintain and comply in all the ways that you're supposed to in order for this application to live in concert with the neighborhood.
So how do you deal with that?
May I answer? I think it was a question to make.
It is.
Things. So whatever is important to the board to be maintained should be shown on the plan or in the approval. And everyone in the village has to comply with the village code and the site plan for their site. The applicant is the applicant today, but the property could be sold tomorrow to someone else. So it's not a matter of the individual person, it's a matter of what is important to the, for this property. If it's something beyond what's in the code, then it should be put as a condition or placed on the site plan. So that, then that's all enforceable by the building inspector.
And I'm hearing you say that it's only if and only if it's not included in the code, should it be included in a resolution as a new requirement on this property.
Is
Like
it already in the
like
property
like-
maintenance code?
Excuse me, yes,
I'm sorry.
this is a board.
Like number of bedrooms, we did that in another property.
Right,
So
so we
you
spoke
can't-
about putting, sorry, in this one, we spoke about putting a note that it can be 5 bedrooms in the existing structure and 4 in the addition. Right. And then if it's being occupied, as more bedrooms than that, the village could enforce against that.
But the idea that it's a code violation or another issue with regard to compliance is not something we've ever included in the resolution because it's assumed by the code and the law.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Rich, one of your specific conditions that you guys make is that it has to follow New York State building codes, property maintenance codes. A recommendation I could make about landscaping is that you put in the condition that must be replaced if diseased or dead. That gives the building inspector the ability, if he goes out and there's a tree that was planted that's healthy for 3 years and then it suddenly dies, you can't just let it die, you gotta replace it. But if that kind of thing could be in your decision, because otherwise we don't have power over landscaping. Because that's not something that's covered under state. So if you indeed want, and landscaping is very important in this decision, so that would be my recommendation. That you say all landscaping must be as provided on the site plan and be replaced if disease. You can even ask for a bond to make sure that it's gonna be planted, and let Emily advise you on how it's done.
Do a maintenance bond, make sure they live for a year.
You already have a CFO to hold over his head. It's just an extra expense.
Yeah. We
I mean,
have
that-
plans for completion of landscaping. We have one in place right now on the most part of you.
Right.
Well, suppose you finish in December, you're not gonna plant. So then
But
it
that
has
would be the purpose of the bond.
Right.
That it just ensures that the work comes to completion, even though there might be seasonal interruptions or materials lost. Maybe there's no trees available because they have tariffs.
It actually helps, Anthony, because it allows the CMO to be given temporarily while it's not in season, and when the growing season comes, then the landscaping can be finished, so. Just another alternative.
Clarifying.
Another thing, Rich, I know you guys already know, we get inspected every year by the building inspector. They go through the house room by room, smoke alarm by smoke alarm and all the stuff. If you are a resident, you don't, it's not a rental property, they don't enter your house. We get inspected every year. And Mike knows it. I'm aware of that. Yeah, I just want to clarify, they don't ignore us and walk away from us.
So thank you for letting me explore that, the idea of what resolutions and what is not required and necessary.
Yes.
Go ahead, what is?
If this gets approved at some point in time, there'll be a permit set. You know, I don't have the electrical drawings in here. I'll put them in the permit set that Alex gets. In fact, he already has them on file as part of the old project, but I'll reissue those.
Yes.
Everything that's needed to be there.
Okay, so then we're in agreement that, in terms of special conditions, we will have one about the bedroom. I'm also in favor of Mike's recommendation about the landscaping. Were there any other special conditions that the board feels need to be in the resolution?
Were all the architectural, the DRB recommendations, are they all shown
Oh, yeah.
on this latest set of
Yes, I
plans?
did see that they're listed.
It's a whole page and there's
Yeah.
little circles with hexagons on them. So we've done a lot of what the board has asked for, everything. There's one thing I want to ask for relief from. It's number 8 in the ARB review board. It says we're gonna move the upstairs window that we're gonna screen from the bus station 1 foot. So it lines up with the downstairs window that all the screening will hide.
Are you going to transfer?
So it's like a waste of money. The upstairs window doesn't line up with the downstairs window by 1 foot right now. And we're gonna have to move it, even though it's gonna be hidden. It just doesn't make common sense. It's number 8 on the back elevation. It's the only thing I would ask for relief from.
Isn't that just a recommendation?
Right, but we asked them to update the site plan, so if it's shown in the site plan.
It's shown that way as being moved.
Right. I mean, I think it's already in the site plan, I don't.
I recommend we hold on. There were a lot of recommendations there.
Yeah.
That's one, and I recommend we stick with it.
Okay.
There's enough things that we've all negotiated and navigated to make this what it is now, and I think that's wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so given that, I'd like to make a motion authorizing the creation of the resolution of approval. So. And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we will see you next time. I don't believe there are any changes that we're requiring to make at this time.
Anthony, did you need to defer to one more meeting because you were going to? Just that Sam.
I'm out of town on the sixth. I thought there was a July 29th meeting.
No.
So you don't need me for that.
I'll be here.
Which one? Sam's here.
I'll be fine.
Can't say anything upsetting to the board that night.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Just didn't want to.
Yeah, Lenny, just a point of clarification, if there's a court case related to a piece of the process of this application,
Yeah, I just need one.
we go ahead and move forward the way we're moving, and then if it gets interrupted, that would happen later.
There's no injunction, so there's, there's nothing, right now, the board should be interpreting the law as it exists. And yeah, I think that if things change in the future, then it'll have to, revert to an earlier, a new review or whatever, but at this stage, I think the board needs to continue with what the law provides.
Okay. What is the relief they seek through the courts?
They're seeking to have the ZBA decision annulled. The ZBA's decision was that the ZBA couldn't make a decision, that it didn't have jurisdiction to make those decisions, partly because of the subject matter and partly because it was brought too late. So if that's annulled, then the ZBA will have to go back and hear the appeal. And so then we don't know how that would come out. So, there's just a lot of things that could still happen. But the planning board should just apply the law as it exists.
Next, could we have, I guess there's no PB designation yet, or PB 25-13,
Yeah, there is.
52 South Manhattan Street.
And the same as the first application, there's a DRB review that came somewhere.
Right.
Where are you guys?
And just to clarify too, this project was not required, it's not in a zone that requires DRB review. It came about because the original application from 2021, for some reason, the DRB weighed in. And the applicant reached out to the DRB on their own about these changes because they reviewed the original. So the referral was not required. I just wanted to clarify that for everybody. So
I thought it was when they tore down the old building.
I wasn't around in 2021, so I can't say how or why it did, but it did.
Yeah, either was I, but I'm Daniel. I'm the project manager for the Harmony Hall site, representing the owners as they were not able to come tonight. And Andy Willingham is on vacation as well, so that's why I am here. But basically, my discussion with you guys tonight is the current site plan has fencing in the front of the building along the parking lot. It has a fence for the generator enclosure, and it has a fence for the dumpster enclosure. I am proposing and requesting if we could add a fence on the back side of the building adjacent to the neighbor's property for added privacy and screening for our residents and the neighbors. And I am proposing that we could make that fence along the back the same fence all around. On the original site plan, the planning board approved a bamboo fence on the front, a stockade fence for the dumpster, and a vinyl fence for the generator. So I'm looking to do a vinyl board-on-board fence, which is shown here around the whole project, as to match the generator. And part of the review during the board was that the front fence was going to be 4 foot high for lights going into the adjacent property. So that will remain 4 foot high. Everything else will be 6 foot vinyl fence. And I spoke to the historic board, Camilla and Thomas, about the color of it as just as a courtesy meeting with them as they were on site for some other items. And we decided that, Thomas and Camilla decided that this clay color would be the best fit color for the surrounding area. These colors right here, I'm presenting a white, a beige, a gray, and a clay are all in the same budgeted price point that I have for this project. We thought that the clay would be the best fit. So that is the whole fencing plus, but there's also some landscaping that was originally proposed on the site plan along this back hillside. Due to the fence going up that I'm requesting, and there's all rock along that hillside, I'm not sure if you guys have been to the site. It's very hard for me to plant all the shrubs that were proposed back there, as they will probably die within a year. So the trees, they have more of a stable root base, which is why we're proposing 6 white oaks along the hillside with like a wildflower seed mix.
Okay, so that's the only change on the landscaping side, the trees?
Yeah, the only change in landscaping side would be the removal of the shrubs that were along that back hillside that are circled for replacement of the 6 white oaks and a wildflower seed mix. And then the fencing.
You know, if there was any reason why there were 3 different fencing materials in different parts, like, are we missing something that might have been a consideration as to why we had different materials?
I'm not sure. I do know that the board during the original review, requested a bamboo fence that was approved on the front part of the lot. But, you know, but part of it was making a uniform fencing for around the site instead of having 3 different forms of fencing. It's kind of like making it.
And is the fence along in the back along the neighbor's property, is that something that they requested or that was your?
That was kind of my choice that when I started the project, when I started clearing and grading. I forget the lady's name that lives over in the corner over there, but she came out and asked me, she's like, is there gonna be fencing? I said, well, unfortunately, there's nothing on my site plan. But other than that, it was just kind of the thing that we wanted to do for added privacy and security. There's nothing, you know, protecting anybody from coming in and out back there. And like I said, it just provides more visual screening for the neighbors and the residents' privacy.
So basically the fence is in the backyard of all these houses, right?
It's on the hillside.
Yeah, but these are the backyards of these properties.
Correct.
Right?
Mhm.
This house faces Route 32. I think,
Correct.
right? Okay. Now, is this fencing? This
This right here, all I did was, for the building inspector and Mike was I circled what changed from the original site plan.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's just,
Very.
yeah, they were red, but they, no, the fencing
that's
is,
that line.
there's a little tiny line that goes across here,
Right.
yeah. I just circled where the changes were.
And then where is the fence line on the south side?
Right here, right into
Oh,
little
right here,
X.
right at the parking lot?
Yep, right at the parking lot between the light pole and the curb line.
Well, I'm not saying, that's just make good neighbors. I mean, I can never complain about the nice fence in the backyard.
No, and there'll be a public hearing, let's make sure that we hear from them, but yeah, it's a big building, it's nice to have some obscurity.
Yeah, I just figured it was more of a upgrade than.
You know, one thing that might help everybody, if you could do this, could you Photoshop that fence into a picture of your building? So we could actually see what the fence is gonna look like? I know.
Well, probably, yeah, I'm probably gonna look into that.
It doesn't have to be, you know, the fence doesn't obviously is gonna be, you know, generated by the image, which is fine.
Mhm.
But, you know, a picture of your building, so you can see what almost like what it would look like from here, because this is what people are gonna see most of this day.
Yeah, I'm wondering how visible it will be.
You're not gonna see anything behind the building.
You're not, yeah, you're really. You'll see like a little portion of it. I mean, you have so much, there's landscaping the existing trees in that corner. So you'll see a glimpse of it, but really won't be an eyesore whatsoever from the road. And, I know you were looking down at that, Zach, that was the original bamboo. That's from the original plan set that was approved, that's the original bamboo that is in front over here, that the board approved.
But it's gonna be replaced by the new proposed.
Yeah, I'm proposing to just make everything uniform and do a 4 foot high, board on board vinyl there. And something else.
I'm curious, this gets a long run fence. You know, and you're right, I'm not gonna see that, but we'll see that, you know.
And that's what it's going to be a fence. The question is whether,
I mean, that fence line
it's
is,
approved to be a fence.
yeah.
The question is, the difference in the material, and that's why I asked whether, I wasn't here for the original approval of this project, but I was curious to know whether there was some rationale for why to have the bamboo there. I imagine it's just appearance, as opposed to the new one.
I could review the minutes to see if there was any discussion of them.
I would see
That's all.
Same.
Yeah, we did look back at the secret review just to make sure there wasn't anything that we should keep an eye out for and didn't notice anything.
Just one thing I do want to mention is that, I am moving quickly and the project is about 6 months ahead of schedule. So I'm afraid if I come back to the board a couple times, I just don't want it to delay my CFO. So I'm not sure if it's possible that, a TCO or CVO can be obtained without a fence. If that happens to, be the request of the board.
That would be up to the building department to decide,
Look, I'm not.
but we have to.
I was curious what it looked like.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I guess I'm like a little hesitant about the like replacing the bamboo fence, the vinyl fence. I kind of will just would wanna do a site visit myself to see what the sight lines are from the street and stuff. But in the meantime, we can certainly schedule the public hearing for you and try to just keep it moving forward. So I mean, first thing we need to do is get a motion to classify this as a type 2 action under seeker.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? And I think the next meeting is August 6th, right? So just gonna get a motion to schedule the public hearing for August 6th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Um,
And yeah, in the meantime, I think we'll do some site visits if there are any sort of visualizations that you can provide of what the fence looks like on the property, that'd be really helpful for the next meeting too.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely put together and show everyone what would look like.
Okay.
Would you want to potentially authorize a decision for the next meeting, or is that too preliminary? And either way is fine.
I don't know, what's the board feel?
I would think we could do that. I mean,
Okay.
I do too, especially if just that, it just depends, you know?
Yeah.
And to me, the most important fence was the one on the south side, facing the apartments, you know? The
Right.
one in the back, you're just being a really good neighbor, like.
It's the only thing I'm just interested in is the one in the front of everybody who sat and reviewed this project originally decided that bamboo was important as a feature of the building. I don't want to necessarily just override that. In fact, you're willing to make a site visit and give your perspective on that, then that would be fine.
I will try to review the minutes to see if there was anything in there about it. So.
Sure. All right, yeah, well,
Otherwise,
I'm happy to authorize it, since it is, 3 weeks, not our regular 2 weeks. I think that makes sense. So if I get a motion authorizing, our attorney to draft the resolution of approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we will see you next time and.
I think before the applicant, Emily, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is there any conflict that I live right next to this project?
No, you don't have any,
No, I don't.
relationship with.
No, I'll just include in the minutes that you disclosed that, but as long as there's no,
No.
then it's on the record, if it so doesn't come back on you later, but yeah.
And the color you guys are.
Looks good, yeah.
It's fine to me.
All right.
It looks great.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to stop by, if you want, we'll have to set with you by all means.
That's probably not necessary.
Yes.
Yeah, is it closed off? Do I need someone to like let me into the?
We close the gates, we open up at 7 and close at 4.
Okay.
So
send
but
you an email.
you can,
Yeah.
you can walk around, yeah, it's fine. So, all right, guys, appreciate your time.
Thanks. Lastly, we have PD 2514, 44, 46 Church Street.
Yeah.
Hello.
Good evening. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Sure, why not?
So can you walk us through the proposal?
Yeah, so, what I plan on doing is taking down the house on the front lot. There's two separate lots, the front lot and the back lot. Previously, I wanted to leave the house and build a duplex in the back. But because of some issues, I'd like to take the house down, combine the two lots, and that takes care of some of the density issues that I was facing. And build a duplex with 3 bedrooms in each, and take the 4 bedrooms that are in the existing house and put them in the lower level of the new building.
I'm sorry, how many units are in the new, or is it 2 apartments or 3 apartments?
3 apartments, yeah.
Yeah, it's 2, 3 bedrooms and 1.
Is it relevant that there's a 4-bedroom home up front that you're taking down? But there's a lot combination, or whatever we want to term that. Is it relevant that there's a 4-bedroom in front there? No.
No, no,
It's just about what
just-
you want to build.
Exactly. This is what it looks like. The two on, the one on the left and the one on the right are existing.
Mhm.
And I propose to fill in the middle.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
And so really what we're reviewing in terms of the construction, besides the lot line change or the combination, is all just on its own, has to meet, code and parking requirement and density and all the things. But it doesn't have there's no offset or other consideration because they're taking down a house.
No, I think the fact that the lot is now larger will have an impact on the density, and that's why it doesn't need any variances, but I agree, no, there's not.
Yeah, on the big plan, there's a square footage calculation
Yeah, I see.
from his engineer, which actually Alex and I double checked the math, and we agree 100% with the calculation.
So one in the zoning, it calls for essentially 1 parking spot per bedroom. And I propose to, in order to satisfy that, I have the area to create 8 more parking spots. I'm wondering if the board can approve only putting in 4 spots and leaving room for an additional 4 spots if needed. Reason I bring this up is because I don't believe that from past experience that I need 1 spot per bedroom. But I have it and I'm willing to put it in. I just,
Would that be considered a land bank?
Right, so what we sometimes do is you would show where those spots would be and the plan, if, you know, if the board decides to go that route, the plan would be approved with those spots as banked, so that if they're needed in the future,
Yeah.
they could be built.
yeah.
Okay, and does this might require a ADA parking space? Were you?
Yeah, you will
Yeah.
increase enough parking spaces that you will need to have one.
Yeah, and it'll be right there. If that,
And how does it work with the affordability?
This is only 9 dwelling units, so it's under 10, so it's not,
Okay.
does not apply to the code.
yeah.
So counting the house, there's currently 7 dwelling units. He'd be removing 1, which would bring it to 6. And then he's proposing 3 new dwelling units for a total of 9.
And so how wide is the driveway that's?
It's 25 foot wide.
Okay. That's,
And that would come right out to the road.
yeah,
Yeah, if I recall, there's supposed to be a 20-foot wide fire access road for that distance from.
Minimum 20. And I would recommend, and I think Alex put it in his recommendation, that we refer this to the fire chief just to take a look, but.
right,
Again, his opinion. But I know the current site is a challenge for them to access with a truck. Because of the house and having to go around the house.
yeah,
It's the existing parcel of land.
okay. Does the board have any other questions, or can we go ahead and?
Zach, I did a site visit yesterday, and one thing I didn't put on my list, I noticed you have a dumpster, but there's no screening around it, so we should include a dumpster enclosure of some kind.
And in the past, I guess I had an agreement with the, a previous building inspector that I put, live plantings around it rather than a fence. Only because the fences always get banged up and broken and they become a mess. And also when you open it, it's kind of scary that there may be a rodent or something in there. But I'm happy to put a fence up if that's what you require. Like you can't see the dumpster from any neighboring properties.
No, that's correct. It would just be for safety and security.
Yeah.
And prevent somebody from, child or something from climbing in.
And to that parking question, you asked to clarify, you had said you wanted the board to consider whether some of the spots could be land banked.
Yeah.
And then reconsider down the road. Were you proposing these 8 that are in broken line as being the 8 or less than the 8?
You know what, I think, I would like an additional 4 I'd be comfortable with as far as being able to provide enough parking for my tenants. So I guess the answer is no, I'd like just, land bank 4 of them. if that's works for the board.
I'm not sure that the, sorry, Rachel.
No, I'm sorry, as you know, I'm, in favor of fewer parking spaces. I think people shouldn't have as many cars.
And I'm not certain that these four that I think would be in the north end, I'm not sure that those work anyway, like. If I'm looking at,
Yeah.
so we probably have to check those. I don't think we need a traffic engineer, but you want to see what I'm looking at here, but yeah, I think those look like they're just kind of dot on there, but I'm gonna slide it a little closer. I mean, it almost looks as though you can have 8 where the 4 to the south are. And only maybe build 4 and leave 4 as a slot, but I don't know if the ones that are across from it work.
Well, you may not get 8 on the south side, but you could certainly get 6. And put 2 on the north side. Cause yeah, the slot that's in the, the northeast corner is not gonna work.
Now, did someone, who drew up that parking?
The engineer,
He did.
yeah.
He's gonna have to, maybe he can demonstrate entrance and egress from those spots and make sure that they work.
Yeah, you see how he kicks the road over a little bit,
Yeah.
and that's how, that's how he achieves it. Instead of coming straight up into the parking lot, into the main parking lot, he kind of kicks it over to the right, coming up the hill.
Yeah.
Is that because of like the elevation of the?
You know, it's just because if it came straight up, you would lose half that spot, and then it wouldn't be a viable spot.
Well, why can't they be just shifted closer to the building?
He probably could shift it a little bit more. But for there's rock retaining wall there currently.
There is quite a bit of rise between the front property and the rear property too. There's a hill that the road goes up, the driveway goes up there.
You consider putting 6 on the south side and 2 on the north side.
Yeah.
Just eliminate the 2 that are in the northeast corner. Because I think there's definitely conflict.
Yeah, I would be, whatever you'd like,
That's fine.
I'd be amenable to.
Okay, yeah, so we'd like to see that change and just very clear which spots would be land based.
So put 2 more spots here.
I think that's what you're.
Yeah. Okay, but does that bring us into a setback that I shouldn't be in?
I can't tell you that.
Setback from what? From that neighbor.
Yeah.
I don't think that applies to parking spaces.
No, it wouldn't apply to your parking spaces.
And then just, you know,
And
be
then,
very clear
and then
which
do
ones.
away with, which ones did you,
Northeast corner.
do away with the northeast?
Yeah, get rid of those 2.
And then if you want to test whether you're gonna put land bank 4, maybe those 2 that you have, or could be the other 2. That we could consider. You have experience with your tenants and the need, we certainly are in favor of less pavement.
Let me ask you this, what about from taking these 2 here and moving them in here more?
Looks like you have a path there,
Yeah,
there's something in.
yeah, but that's true, yeah, yeah.
I don't know what the other little thing is, but there's something in there.
I think leaving them in a place where they work up
Okay.
there, but
Yeah.
let's think about whether we could not build them.
Yeah. And I guess, what about also having it, instead of pulling in parallel?
Nobody likes the parallel parking. I failed my first driving test because of parallel.
Have
John, you could, instead of making them at a 90-degree angle, though, you could angle them at like 60 or 45 degrees, so it's a pull-in kind of thing. But you just need to make sure that there's enough room to back out. There's 38 total bedrooms, and right now he's got 38 units.
I see that.
Okay, great. So you'll, work on some ideas for that. In the meantime, we can set public hearing, but first, well, can you explain why this is, an unlisted project?
It didn't really fit into any of the type 2 categories, so that makes it unlisted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
But we already have the short form EAF, so we would need to go through the short form part 2.
got it.
And there's no other agencies that Emily or I come up with
Yeah.
that need to be permitting, so this board would be the only agency.
Understood. All right, could I get a motion to classify this project as unlisted under seeker?
Second.
All in
I
favor?
need to do a roll call vote on that one, because it's unlisted. Rachel,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Rich, Terry, Zach.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like a motion to refer the plan to the fire chief, so he can weigh in on the fire access.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And also would like a motion to refer to the Ulster County Planning Board. Since I believe it's in 500 feet of the county road, so.
It is, it's within 500 feet of the county road, and I think there was a second thing that triggered it, but I can't remember. what.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, can I get a motion to set the public hearing for August 6th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I believe that's,
Can you make those changes in time? When do you need those?
Yeah, so if you can get, in order to get this to the county, if you can get those changes to me by a week from today,
Okay,
that works?
yes,
Okay. Yeah, by next Tuesday, then I can get it to the county for there, because they meet, well, they're actually gonna meet on the 7th, which will be the day after our public hearing, but,
okay.
so,
And that could be an electronic copy?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would just need that, because the existing page is fine, I just need to replace the proposed web page.
Sure.
all right, well, that's all for tonight then, and we will see you on August 6th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
And I'll send you the information, both for the public hearing.
Should I motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.